Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is GamePlan 2022. We're live. We're coming to you live from Parliament buildings right here in Nairobi. A very significant day for the 12th Parliament as curtain comes down on it, and specifically the National Assembly. And with me on this set is Godfrey Osotsi. Honorable Godfrey Osotsi is a member of the Orange Democratic Movement, and the reason why he is a member of that is going to be part of the reasons why we're discussing this right here. He was from ANC. After a long battle with the Amani National Congress, he defected to the Orange Democratic Movement. Karibu sana to the set, sir.
Thank you very much.
As I've just mentioned, the 12th Parliament had a lot of unique things happening. For the first time, it was unprecedented, by the way. For the first time, we had the record number of women representatives in the National Assembly. 76 women, to be precise, were members of Parliament. And as I've mentioned, many members had ditched their parties that sponsored them to support other parties, something that we did not see in past parliaments. You have done that. Why was the reason for this?
Well, maybe let me start with the issue of what happened today. Sindai means basically that the House is being adjourned to a later date that is not known. You know that since we got a new constitution, before we used to have the idea of Parliament being dissolved. But with the new constitution, Parliament manages its own calendar. So that means that no one, including the President, has the powers to dissolve Parliament. Parliament, on its own volition, through the House Business Committee, will propose a schedule which the plenary will decide on the schedule when Parliament will have its own calendar. And what happens today was simply to say that we are adjourning the House to a later date, which is not known because we are going into an election. So many Kenyans are used to the old constitution where the President used to dissolve Parliament at any given time. But now the role of Parliament in the process of managing the calendar is that Parliament manages its own calendar. It can decide when to sit and when not to sit. The second aspect of it is that Sindai means that because we are not dissolving Parliament, we are only adjourning Parliament, that in case there is any business to be transacted between now and the 9th of August, Parliament can still be recalled in the process of special session, which involves gazettement, communication through the media, to sit and decide and discuss a matter that is scheduled for discussion. So that does not mean that with the effect of today that MPs will go home and they will never come back. It has a possibility that MPs can still come back and discuss a matter that Parliament considers to be of national importance. The second aspect you've raised is the issue of increase in the number of women representatives in the 12 parliaments. I think it's a good thing. You know that this country has been struggling to achieve the 2/3 gender rule. There has been attempts to pass through a law that will ensure that 2/3 gender rule is complied. But those several attempts have not worked. But it is a good thing to see that after every election, the number of MPs who are being elected, a substantial number of them are women. 2013, we had lesser women elected. 2017 we had an increased number of MPs being elected. And maybe 2022, the way I'm seeing, we may have an increased number of MPs being elected, even at the gubernatorial level. You see, we have an increased number of serious gubernatorial candidates who are being presented by big parties, ODM and UDA, who are vying for women gubernatorial positions. So we are going to see an increased number of not just the National Assembly women members of parliament, but we are going to see an increased number of senatorial women members of parliament, and also the gubernatorial representative. So it is a good thing, and it's something that we need to encourage, and that's why sometimes we think that maybe the two-thirds gender rule is a good thing, but we cannot force it on the Kenyans, because at the same, what is important is that Kenyans must be given the right to choose their leaders. Sometimes they will choose men, sometimes they will choose women. And if they choose more women, then let it be. If they choose more men, let it be. But with experience, we are seeing that more women are now being accepted into leadership position. More women are coming forward because they are seeing their other women are also being elected. So that is a good thing. The third thing you've raised is the issue of party allegiance. I want to say that party allegiance must be looked at from not just one perspective. Because the perception that has been there is that party allegiance is one-sided. That party allegiance is the responsibility of a member. But the party allegiance should also be the responsibility of the political party. And the party allegiance is not just the issue of loyalty. It is also the issue of adherence to the law. It is also the issue of adherence to democratic ideals that are enshrined in our constitution. We cannot have a party that is rogue, a party that is briefcase, a party that is one-man issue, making decisions that other members have to comply with. We must have a situation.
You knew all that before the party
No.
to Parliament.
Let me tell you.
I want to cut to a short commercial break, and this is one of the issues I want us to discuss, because the number of those who ditched their parties that had sponsored them to Parliament was unprecedented, and one would argue that that was really unconstitutional. But we're going to discuss that right after this short break. Remember, this is GamePlan 2022. You can be part of this conversation on our SMS line 22047. We are discussing the last debate that members of Parliament had today, the members of the National Assembly, as they adjourn, as the Constitution now allows them to. Time now for a very short break. We'll be back. Don't go away.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery, or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature, because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. you know what's happening around you. Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Kawaida Yesu alipoingia katika the temple alikuwa ameshika nyahunyo. Name 10 things Yesu alinyahunya.
Of course alitandika watu, akatandika akamwaga vitu, akatandika usherati.
Hot and new, yani hizi zile tracks mpya zimetokea manze.
Hakuna divai, Maria kawaambia.
Anajipuliza.
See First Sunday Plus from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Plays it in the gap to Jesus. It reaches to Bruyne into the penalty area. And
the football season is finally over. But that does not mean we stop keeping everything sporty like we always do. Join me, Dennis Otieno, here at Soccer Diaries, as we have ourselves some fun and game-filled activities every Tuesday at...
Bira ndani ya leo. 5 minutes Buddha. 5 minutes ndio usichelewe. 5 minutes.
There is no future without technology. We need technology for the world to keep moving and evolving. That is why here at Tech 47, we keep you up to date with technology. From new tech inventions to technology advancements.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is GamePlan 2022. We are taking stock of the performance of the 12th Parliament and specifically the National Assembly. And with me on set, I have nominated Member of Parliament Godfrey Osotsi, and next to him, who just joined us, the Shinyalu Member of Parliament Justus Kizito. Karibu sana to the set, sir. Just before we went on that short break, Mheshimiwa Osotsi, you're talking about party loyalty and allegiance, and I held you to the point that you knew the structure of your party before it sponsored you to Parliament.
You know, I don't want you to make it my issue. I want us to look at the issue objectively. And what I'm trying to say is that the issue of party loyalty is not just a one-sided issue. It is a multi-sided issue, in the sense that the obligation to observe party democracy, party loyalty, is a multi-sectorial, multi-stakeholder issue. We have individual party members, we have the party organs, we have the party regulators, in this case like the registrar of political parties, and we have the party as an institution. Of course, when I talk about the party as an institution, it also includes the various people who are involved in the management of that party. We cannot have a scenario where a few individuals in a political party are exercising excessive powers over the other members And when those other members question those excessive powers or what I would call excesses, they are termed to be rebels, they are punished, they are subjected through some retrogressive or disciplinary processes, and then now you turn around and say, because this member has objected to the party leadership, then this member is a rebel. That is not the party democracy that is supposed to happen in this country like happens in the other democracies in the US and the UK. We want a situation where when parties must be managed democratically, and the parties must be institutions which are standing on their own and not entities which are owned by individuals but pretending to be democratic institutions. That one we will oppose, and that is what happened to me in ANC. I was a founder member of ANC. I was a founder secretary general, but we got to a point where we realized that democracy was being trampled upon. We rejected and said, no, this is not what you wanted in terms of, this is not the vision we wanted to have in this party, and we rejected it. But you cannot use that and say, I am a rebel because I objected to the conduct of a few members.
I want to thank both of you for being, yes, you will. I'm just saying I would want to thank both of you for being here with us. Just 60 days to the election. You could be busy campaigning, or probably you're the ones being favored by opinion polls. Justice?
No, just my take on that one. And I wanted just to, I don't want him to be a bit emotional because actually he was affected. But the truth is that actually parties are public entities, public institution. Once you do a party, it belongs to all of us. It's not yours alone as a party leader. Yeah? So what happens is that I want also to agree with him that the parties, as long as party has been formed and people are there, you must also see what people are talking and think about, and all this, so that you don't actually put on stringent measures. That we want to be loyal to the party. You, as now the leader of the party, have been put there by people. Yeah, you can't get there being party leader if you are not being, or if you don't have acceptance by people. Yeah, people must accept you to be party leader, and all this. So you also must, in as much as you are demanding for our loyalty to the party. Loyalty to the party means you must be loyal to your people. Those are what party members, and party members must be loyal to you. So that also everybody must meet the obligations very well. So that you don't look like,
I want to stay with you. As the curtains come down now on the 12th Parliament,
to me, I think the Parliament has done very well. And in the first place, I want to commend Speaker Muturi. He's a person who has actually brought everybody together, regardless of parties. And I want it to be very clear that parties bring us here. We are let and come to Parliament. We become like a family. And I want to think that this Parliament has done quite a lot. And me, as the chairman, this Parliament actually made me a member of various committees. I worked in Park. I worked in Public Investment Committee. I've worked in Special Funds Committee. I'm now chairman of Broadcasting. And then also I've worked in the Committee of Administration and National Coordination, Security Committee. So it's like this Parliament has done very well, and in terms of placing people in the committee and being able to respond to people's needs, the committee needs and all this. So I want to say that the committee has done very well. The Parliament has done very well, and our committees have been more vibrant than before. You know, I was also here in the 10th Parliament. I was here in the 10th Parliament, and it's not like it is now. And given that now the Parliament has totally limited time in terms of air and coverage, so my committee on broadcasting has tried to open space, broadcasting and all this, so that now we are able to deal with people, to have people understand what you're doing, And even in terms of, you remember we had this time when we had the COVID, it was very unfortunate actually. It's like all members went out there, but they were here, but they could not be here only on virtual and also on unlimited space. But then the public would think that these people, members of Parliament, ran away from Parliament. So that is the only debacle we had, and it was very difficult. But now, my committee had to open space through virtual meetings for the parliamentary committees and broadcasting, and actually that one really helped us quite a lot.
Before I engage Osotsi on his personal reflections, personal proud moments, I'd like to engage you on this. You've talked about COVID. Do you think, in your opinion, this parliament was really thoughtful of the common man? Because it increased the value-added tax from 14% to 16%. The 14% had been proposed to caution Kenyans against the effects of COVID-19, but the MPs came and returned it to 16%. It is also the parliament that is going to be remembered for increasing the country's debt ceiling twice in 5 years to now where we are, 10 trillion shillings. Do you think that is thoughtful really for the common mwananchi? Thoughtful for the common mwananchi?
Yeah. Actually was there, and all of us are so much we regret for that, and we can do that. But about that, it is surely not anybody can go for borrowing. Nobody wants to borrow anything unless it's need for it.
Okay.
And then I wanted just to put it clearly that if borrowing is not bad, it's the debt. But as long as the money borrowed is being put in the proper use, so that to spearhead development, so that Kenyans can be comfortable. So for me, yes, the parliament has done that, members of parliament have done that, but don't forget that these are representatives of the people. So when we are doing this, it's commensurate to the people's needs and what they want, because some of the things are beyond Kenya. And look at the countries that have really succeeded in this world. Look at Singapore. Look at South Korea. Look at Malaysia. Look at all this. Surely they grew out of borrowing. And don't forget that actually South Korea, in the year 1980, they were borrowing from us heavily. And you can remember that. And look at Malaysia, look at all this. They were borrowing from us, but now they're ahead of us because of that. Borrowing is not bad. Even however big the debt is not bad. But is it being converted into productivity?
What about the issue of the 14% to 16% VAT? Was that really thoughtful?
Yes, that one, it came in. You're asking very difficult questions. It came in. Because that would be good actually to be dealt with. Where was that? That 14% all of us rejected. I was not part of it. Okay. I really vehemently rejected, but the parliament passed it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, parliament passed it. Because now you see, when it's passed it, and now actually we are also members of parliament, yes. Then it's like all of us did it. Yeah. National Assembly did it. Mm-hmm. So for me, that one I did not think it was wise. Okay. Yeah, I was really against that. Okay. Even you remember all of us came here and actually, but in the issue of debt, there must have been wisdom that has been put in. So I don't want us to vilify it, because where we are is that now we are fine, because now BAMBA going to take over the government, and all the thieves were thrown away. Those who used to steal and all this. So actually the gap we have and the hole we have in the economy of Kenya is because of those ones who actually kind of corruption. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa Osotsi, personal reflections, proud moments?
Well, maybe the first thing is to try and address the issue of the debt, which you have raised.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I know it's one of the things that Parliament is being blamed for. The second thing is the issue of increase in VAT. Well, starting with the debt issue, I want to agree with my colleague Justice Kizito here that debt is not a bad thing. Debt is not a bad thing. Even these countries that we keep on talking about as countries which have grown very fast, they never grew economically without borrowing. They borrowed. The Asian tigers and even European countries, they had to borrow to become what they are today. what is important in borrowing, even at your personal level, is what do you do with the money you borrow. If you borrow money and you end up eating all that money, then it's a problem. And that's why I want to agree with President Uhuru Kenyatta in his speech recently during the Madaraka celebration. Clearly stated that what is important is what you do with
the money. Yes.
You cannot
the borrowed money
be in a scenario where you are not a risk taker. Even at your individual level, you must be a risk taker. You must borrow to develop. You cannot fear to borrow, because if you fear to borrow, you will not develop. We need infrastructure. There are people who are saying, why did we borrow to build the expressway? Why did we borrow to build the SGR? We need those services because those are services which are going to spur economic development. So for me, borrowing is not a bad thing, so long as that borrowing is used correctly and appropriately and efficiently to improve the economy, to create jobs, so that we don't have so many unemployed youth, and to basically improve the standards of living of Kenyans. If that is the case, then I have no problem with borrowing. The second thing is to what extent should you borrow? You heard people saying we have overborrowed. Then you ask them, what is the limit of borrowing? Look at the benchmark of other countries. US itself, which is the largest economy in the world.
Yes.
Compared to their GDP, they are higher than Kenya. And yet it's the largest economy in the world. Japan and the other countries. So let us be realistic and let's not play politics all the time to try and make the government, which is
look bad.
Look bad. We also need to be very objective and say, well, do we need roads? Yes, we need roads. What are these roads going to do? What is their impact on the economy? What are the benefits in terms of job creation? What are the benefits in terms of GDP and all that? If we are satisfied that by borrowing we are going to increase economic factors, then it is better to borrow. Just like in your house. You are a teacher in the village there, and you desire to have a better housing. And you say, I want to go to the cooperative and borrow money to have a better housing, so that I become a better teacher. That is a good thing. It is just like the country. So for me, borrowing is not a bad thing.
It's not even about a teacher. It's also about even mama. Our mothers at home. You don't have unga. You don't have food for your children. When you go and borrow unga from that house to make sure children survive so they can work tomorrow and pay back.
Okay, yes. And I really wanted Mheshimiwa
So before you ask me, so for those who are pushing the narrative that borrowing is a bad thing, I think they are also sending wrong signals to Kenyans that we should not borrow. And if we don't borrow in this country, then the banking industry will collapse. Very briefly. And we will not move forward. The second thing was the increase in VAT. We must appreciate that COVID had its own negative effects on our economy. And Parliament is composed of elected representatives of the people. And these elected representatives of the people are also alive to the challenges that the people face. And they are also alive to situations that arises every now and then. For example, we cannot bury our heads in the sand over issues of the effects of COVID to our economy and say everything is status quo. No. Parliament also appreciated what government proposed to them. That look here, These are the effects of the COVID-19 on our economy. As Parliament, as a responsible parliamentarians, what do you think we should do? Probably we can raise our level of taxation by only 2%, from 14% to 16%, to cushion Kenyans against the effects of COVID-19 economically. So, Parliament, this House, is composed of people who are representing various interests. We have lawyers, we have economists, we have educationists, we have all manner of people here. And sometimes when they put their mind together and they come up with a decision, that decision is for the interests of the Kenyan people.
I want us to move on, and that's why I'm asking you very
briefly. I just want to hear your personal proud moments during this parliament. Very briefly, in a minute or less.
Personal?
Proud moments for you.
For me, proud moments was how Parliament was able to react to the challenges that posed by COVID-19. You know, the challenges of gathering, the challenges of being able to work remotely, the challenges of being able to do things in the circumstances that we found ourselves in. And I think Parliament succeeded, because we were able to transact business in terms of calamities, in terms of disasters that we went through. And I think that is commendable, and I think that is one great thing that I must say Parliament did the right thing. Second thing is that if you look at all the parliaments that we have had, the parliament that has been able to pass the highest number of legislation
and bills
legislation and even regulations, it is the 12th of parliament. So I think the standards of rating the performance of Parliament must be pegged on how many bills and how many pieces of legislation that Parliament has been able to pass. So for me, it depends on how you look at it. I think this Parliament succeeded quite a lot. The also most important moment that I had was the overwhelming decision on BBI, Building Bridges Initiative. The courts might have had their own decision on BBI, but the overwhelming decision by parliamentarians on BBI, which went through extensive processes, it went through public participation by Parliament, and it went through very extensive debates. I really enjoyed the debate around it, the divergent views, and the final coming together to overwhelmingly vote for the bill. I think that was one of my most memorable moments in this Parliament.
I want us to talk. You've talked about
Parliament having done a lot as far as legislative work is concerned. It has passed more bills than any other parliament in history in the country. I want us to take a very, very short break. I'll hold it right there. We're taking a very, very short break. We'll be back. And I want to engage Mheshimiwa Justus Kizito. You've served under the 10th Parliament. We'll talk about that in a few. Time now for a very short break. Remember, you can be part of this conversation on 22047. We're talking about the 12th Parliament, what it has achieved, taking stock of what it has achieved, its performance as a whole. Keep it right here.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Kila siku kama nilivyosema, kila siku maishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack.
As in our family, you're also a leader. Yeah. Not just women, friends and family, but to everyone else you've never met before.
We are the beauty.
The Spice and the Brains, the men's conference where men become alpha males.
And you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
Father, please, na tombe na memere. Effort c'est facile kana kila sala mo effort. Ya kwa susi basala nzambe kasi anda pleda teteni.
Wow. Hapa ndani ya TV47 ni uhondo, utamu wa muziki. Sio hayo tu. Fatimata DJ.
Rivae.
Fatimata.
Rivae.
Pamoja na DJ Kiki kwa kipindi chako kipendacho cha Africa Express.
Na wacha pombe bado sitaki kudedi, nimepoteza figo, maini na mashemeni.
I want to ask you a few questions. Sure. You ready?
Ni kitu gani huwezi toka kwa nyumba bila?
Miwani.
What is the one thing you can't leave the house without?
I can't leave the house without my phone.
Phone. Ai, my phone. Alright, tuongee sasa na Mr. Fresh Barida. Uko vipi?
Halo, kama wewe ni mwenyeji, wewe ni mwenyeji. Halo, kama wewe si mwenyeji, tunataka ule anaichapa mpaka ilale, basi harakisha. I'm again no be so, yeah you won't capture my soul. I'm again no be so, another one mango, baby calm down, calm down.
Mama, let me be your woman.
Despite being
Welcome back to GamePlan 2022. We are taking stock of the 12th Parliament's performance, especially the National Assembly. Now, as the curtains have come down on it, and just before we went on the break, I was to engage you, Mheshimiwa Justice Kizito. You were a member of the 10th Parliament, and as much as people are going to rate the 12th Parliament as having done a lot in as far as legislative work is concerned, there are some concerns that the independence of the 12th Parliament was a bit compromised, and especially in the leadership. You know, the House leadership was often changed because by outside forces, as some people would argue, because of people not aligning to party positions. And I want to hear your comparison between the two.
About 12th or 10th?
The 10th Parliament in comparison to the 12th Parliament.
So what I want to tell you, to tell you that actually the Parliament, the curtain has not fallen on Parliament. The Parliament is not closed, it's not dissolved. Parliament has its own calendars. The 12th Parliament will end on 9th of August, when they're ushering in a new Parliament. So actually, as we sit here, we're still on duty and we're still on pay. So please, don't say the curtain has fallen, because actually that will be misleading Kenyans. But I also want to agree with you that during that time, 10th Parliament, there was Raila as Prime Minister, and there was Kibaki as the President. And I can tell you, my brother, that there was a lot of transparency in whatever would go on. And there's a lot of freedom and all this. So that as we were with Raila and we were in opposition, and Kibaki was the other side. So there was a lot of good things coming on, and people talk freely and things will be done by Parliament. But don't forget that actually at that particular time, it was not like now. It was the prerogative of the President to dissolve or have the Parliament going on. Because the Parliament did not have its own calendar. The calendar depended on the President to dissolve anytime they wanted to do that. So I can tell you, yes, I agree. But again, I also want to tell you that every type of leadership or whatever happens, it's a situation that forces it to be. During that time, things were different because the government was united, it was together and all that. But at this particular time around, you saw the Deputy President, you have seen the Deputy President and the President pulling different sides. So actually, you can also agree with me that it was not easy. So the situation dictated that way. But now, that particular time, there were differences, but with agreement. Raila would pull the other, would pull the other side. We would differ on opinions, but agree, and actually have positive criticism. You criticize, but then you provide a solution. So that's why we had a lot of more independence in the 10th Parliament as compared to the 12th Parliament. But when you look at on the whole in terms of calendar and all this one is more independent than the 10th Parliament, because the 10th Parliament did not have calendar of its own. Okay? Yeah, but then we had a president and a prime minister who were people who actually wanted development, and you could see whatever they did is what actually Uhuru Kenyatta in the 11th and 12th Parliament picked from there, and actually were able to move very well. Yeah.
17, at least 166 out of 290 members of the National Assembly lost their positions to their opponents. And while we can appreciate the fact that many of some of those who did not come back to the House were vying for other positions, not necessarily the National Assembly, let's say the Senate or the governorship position, you'll agree with me that that really still was a huge number, 60% to be precise, a huge number of those who went home. You think the Wanjiku, the common man, really is happy with how you conduct your legislative work?
Well, I must agree with you that the attrition rate has been very high, over 50%. But the attrition rate is not only attributed to Wanjiku. Attrition rate is attributed by other factors. It could be political party nominations, it could be things to do with party loyalty and such. So if you look at, for example, the figure you've quoted, 60% for 2017, you may find that maybe Wanjiku could be half of that, 30%. The others could be attributed to other factors. This year's election is a unique one, in the sense that it is an election where I see the attrition rate is going to be much lower than it's been for other years. Because if you look at the major political parties, in this country is ODM, which is the largest political party, truly largest political party, and UDA and Jubilee, DAP, and the others. You see a scenario where most of these big parties have gone for the current members of parliament as their candidates, which means that we are going to have a lowered attrition rate this year, because most of the members of parliament, current sitting members of parliament,
I hope we have this
are candidates.
exactly after
No, wait. I want you to look at the logic. Are candidates of major parties. For example, let me give you an example. What are chances that smaller parties will win seats in Rift Valley? Kalenjin Rift Valley.
Independent candidates
against UDA. What are chances that smaller parties, that is, when I talk about smaller parties, I mean parties outside the four main political parties, that is ODM,
No, don't say smaller parties, just say parliamentary parties.
Parliamentary parties.
Yeah. You know, when you talk about smaller
I see
parties.
a scenario where most of the colleagues here, you see most of them have been nominated to vie for ODM, for Jubilee, for UDA, for DAP, and for the big parties. So I see a scenario where most of the sitting members of parliament in National Assembly and Senate will be re-elected, and attrition rate, I know some of them are going to lose, but attrition rate is going to be much lower than it has been for the other years. So I am explaining that because you asked me the question of voters, and I said sometimes it is not an issue of voters alone. It could be a multiplicity of issues, voters included, but there could be other issues like party management of nomination and party loyalty and all those things.
Okay, that's Justice.
I agree with you that yes, curtains will come down on both houses of parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, on the 9th of August. But right now, as it is, members of parliament can only reconvene if there's something of national importance, and they've been summoned, or rather been recalled. Let me use the word recalled by the Speaker of the National Assembly. But then again, we have some pending business. We have some important bills. The Public Service Internship Bill 2020. We have that is by Samburu West MP Naisula Lesuda. We have the CDF bill by Tindi Mwale. We have the Penal Code Bill, Nimrod Mbai, the Whistleblower Protection Bill, a very important bill, and several other, public procurement bills. So what happens now to such bills?
That means you are adjourning Parliament indefinitely, so that it's like naturally, normally told, we are adjourning, and the Parliament will resume this particular date. But now we have not been given a date, so therefore the Parliament is still on. So it is in the wisdom of the leadership of the National Assembly to call us any time they feel like. And I want to agree with there's so many, quite a number of very important bills that are still not been executed. So they'll be dealt with in the due course. But we shall continue coming. We are still here. We are still on duty. So it's our duty. Anytime we are wanted here, we'll come back and do it, because actually we are being paid by the Kenyans and the taxpayers. So it's incumbent us to actually really execute whatever it is. We'll come and transact business anytime we wanted, including the 9th itself, when election is being done, we'll come and do the business, because we are not worried. But then I also want to just correct my brother here, is that actually the issue is there's nothing like big parties and small parties. Maybe talk about a parliamentary party and a non-parliamentary party. A parliamentary party is the party that has enough members, more than 23 members in parliament. Okay? Those are parliamentary parties. But there are new parties that have come, like my party called DAP. It's a new party. That is, okay, some of us have gone there, but it doesn't have members of parliament now. Maybe it'll have more, it might get more members of parliament than any other, maybe. But we're saying parties are just parties, because all parties that have been registered are supposed to be national parties. So let us not demean democracy that actually was hardly fought to bring parties, to have multi-party. So every party is important. But now, it depends. Like, for example, if Raila Amolo Odinga today defected to UDP, the Jirongo party, the UDP, it will be now a bigger party. So it actually is all about the leadership of that particular party. Like UDA, Ruto's party, where was it? It was nothing. But it was until William Ruto went there, because now it's a bigger name. Yeah? So now it looks like a big party, but it does not have members in this particular parliament. So you can't also say UDA is a bigger party because it doesn't have any member. It only has one. Only one member of parliament. Yeah. So how can it be a bigger party? ODM has more members of parliament and others. So actually it depends on whoever is there. And now this general election will determine. Now we say this party has more member of parliament than this, but then it's a parliamentary party. Like for example, ANC is not a parliamentary party that me and him we formed. It's no longer a parliamentary party. It's never. For the Kenya, it's not a parliamentary party. In order for a parliamentary party to be a parliamentary party, it must have more than 23, not less than 23 members of parliament. So the only parliamentary party that we have, is ODM, Jubilee, and Wiper, not any other.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just maybe
a parting shot. Yeah, in a minute or less. Mheshimiwa,
the issue of
yes.
the bills. You see, the standing orders are very clear. The bills which were in progress by end of day today and they had not been completed, they basically die.
They basically?
They basically die. They can only be revived in the next parliament, and the revival process means starting afresh, going through all the processes, first reading, second reading, public participation, third reading, and all that. The only bit that I think maybe the standing orders has not factored in is the issue of what about the bills which were passed by Parliament this week, and they are supposed to go to for assent by the President, and the President has reservations. Which Parliament deals with those reservations? And if it is the 12th Parliament that has to deal with the reservation and is not there, what happens? It means the bills will have to die automatically. And that means that the President has been elevated beyond Parliament. That the bills which have been passed this week will die with a stroke of a pen by the President indicating reservations. So I think that's where we have a problem that needs to be looked at so that the independence of Parliament is protected.
Thank you very much. Good for your thoughts.
Was an ANC nominated member of parliament but identifies now with the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM. And of course, next to him is Shinyalu, member of parliament, Justus Kizito. We're just taking stock of the performance of the 12th parliament. Asante sana to you as well, our viewer, for keeping us company until this tail end of the broadcast. And I'd like to say a special thank you to also my crew that you cannot see here, led by Shadrach himself and Mwangi, Noreen Mombi, my director Nick, Mavindi and Sam, as well as my producer Tony Murigi, under the able leadership of our editorial director Mashariki Gashuru. We want to say asante sana for watching GamePlan 2022. I'm seeing a lot of feedback coming in, but because of the interest of time, my director tells me we can